So in today's video, you're going to learn how to absolutely carry every single game you play on Tracer. Going into Season 2, this is the character that you're going to want to learn how to play, as she has some of the most versatility and some of the most impact on the entire game. Before we get into this video, if you find this video helpful at all, please consider liking and giving me a subscription. It really does help out and it will notify you when I upload. So this video is going to be separated into different categories. We're going to go over some tips as well as some advanced strategies that are really going to help you out in your games. And at the end of this video, I'm going to go over some mechanical secrets that Tracer players don't like talking about that are going to mean that you will win so many more games. And if there's anything else that you'd like to know or anything that you would like me to give some more clarity on, please feel free to join my public Discord. The link to that is in the description below. So this tip is for everybody who's struggling to confirm kills on Tracer. When approaching an opponent as Tracer, it's important to not make yourself known until you're within range to kill the opponent. For example, if your team is holding a choke and the other team is holding the opposite side of that choke, it would be really bad to run straight down the middle directly at the opponent that you're trying to kill. And I know that sounds kind of stupid, but this is something a lot of Tracer players do. You really want to be making use of the flank routes on every single map. They're always there for a reason, and Tracer is one of the best characters at using them. Even if you're not able to converge a kill, just being a presence on the flank means that the enemy team has to focus on your existence more than just holding their point. This is especially good at breaking stalemates or breaking holds that the enemy team is trying to hold on you. Let's say that you decide you want to kill an Ana on the enemy team. It's important to remember not to shoot your guns until you're within 20 meters. With Tracer, her damage falls off after 20 meters, and with her recent shadow buff, she's actually able to use all the way up to 20 meters perfectly fine. So you want to make sure that you're within that close range before you start shooting. When you're closing the gap, don't shoot on your way there. Don't shoot at range. There's absolutely no reason to do it. All you're going to be doing is attracting attention to yourself and making it easier for the team to notice you and try and kill you. If you're still struggling to kill people as Tracer, this next tip is actually really helpful. It's going to make sure that you're adding value to your team even in low kill games. Now, Tracer is most valuable when she's attacking the enemy backline. Even if you're unable to kill the enemy backline, as long as they are focusing you, they are not healing their team. So every second that you spend distracting them is actually better for your team. People get very worried about actually converting kills, but you need to understand that being able to get rid of healing for the enemy team is also really important. One of the best ways to do this is to make sure that all your abilities are up before you go in for your flank. When you're fighting the enemy backline, it's important to try and get them to use as many abilities as possible. Every support character has some ability that's extremely important to their team. For example, Ana has sleep dart and nades, Moira has heal and damage orbs and blinks, so it's important to be able to try and get these away from them. When you come in for a flank, just try and do as much damage as you can without dying to try and force them to use these abilities. The moment that you've realized you've done this but you're not going to be able to kill them, you hit E to go back to full health and you blink the way out. If you do this correctly, you'll be unkillable and also completely denying enemy heals. This is one of the easiest ways to win games. A lot of Tracer players don't really know which characters they should be fighting and when. Now, Tracer is unique in the sense that she's able to 1v1 almost every single character in the game, but it's important to understand when and where you can do this. If you pick the fight at the wrong time, you're only going to die and you're only going to be the reason why your team loses. If you focus only their tank, you'll have really high damage but 0 kills and 0 impact. And if you only focus their backline, then their tanks are going to get out of control. So one of the best ways to go about this is to make sure that your priority number one is to remain on the flank at all times. You always want to be approaching from the side, never straight on. But from this flank angle, you're able to see weaknesses in the enemy team composition. If their DPS falls back for heals and you can see that they're low HP, that's your opportunity to take that. If you see one of their supports has just used a movement ability, you're able to go in and confirm that kill. Now, it's important to lurk around the flank for a little bit to make sure that you know what you're going in on. Don't just blindly approach the team and shoot the first thing you see. Although it may seem like that sometimes for a lot of players, it's important to think about why you're fighting that person and when. If you do this correctly, you'll be able to confirm so many more kills in your games, and you will ensure that low HP targets always die. One of the biggest problems for a lot of tank players is they get the enemy team to really low HP, and then those characters that they got low don't die. If you're able to do this as Tracer, your tanks are going to love you, and you're going to be able to confirm so many kills. Coming off of this point is also diving. Diving is such an important part of Tracer's playstyle. The basic way it works is that you follow up on high damage. So let's say you have a Winston jumping in on the enemy backline. You follow up with that to make sure that that opponent dies. Now, because of Tracer's kit, you're able to go for dives whenever your E is up, because the moment you're low HP, you just press E and you're out of the fight. Now, it's important to understand that when you're taking these fights, even though you do have your E ability, you have to think about where your E is going to place you afterwards. If you press E too late, it may put you in a situation worse than if you didn't press it at all. So it's important to understand where your E is going to take you and try and keep a mental note of where that is. So next up, we're going to go into the firing range and I'm going to show you some secrets and some mechanical tips and tricks that are going to make sure that you win so many more games. Now, if you find any of these mechanical secrets useful, please leave a like on this video because it really took me a while to get all of this out. So now that we're in the firing range, I just want to show you some mechanical secrets that are really going to help out in your games. Now, some of this stuff isn't really talked about, and a lot of Tracer players don't like telling you about these kind of things, but I guarantee you that if you put these kind of things into your gameplay, you're going to be so much better at the game. The first thing I want to talk about is using pings. Now, if you come into the firing range and come here, this is the 20-meter point. Tracer has no fall off within this distance, so you want to make sure that you're always within 20 meters. Now, when you're actually playing a game, it's kind of hard to gauge how far away your opponents are. So one of the easiest ways to do this is to just ping the enemy. So above the enemy's heads when you ping them is going to show a counter showing the distance between you and them. If you always do this and make sure you're within 20 meters, you will do the most damage possible. Now, it's extremely subtle and trying to remember to do it is quite hard, but if you can convince yourself to do this, you will be so much better at the game. Now, next up, this is something that's really going to help when you're trying to come in for flanks. If you're playing from height and you want to drop down without being noticed, one of the best ways to give that away is when you drop, you actually make a grunt voice line when you hit the ground. But a lot of players don't understand that you can actually cancel this. If I fall off this ledge and during midair I hold space down, as long as I'm holding space when I hit the ground, there will be no voice line. Now, this seems like nothing much, but when you remember that enemy voice lines are louder than teammate ones, you'll realize how useful this is. So you want to make sure that whenever you're falling off ledges, you don't jump off the ledge, you fall off and hold space midair. Next up, it's really important to bind your quick melee to something usable. So I tend to have it on this button on my mouse. The reason why you want your melee on a mouse button is because you're able to blink and melee at the same time. This is one of the best things you can possibly do, because whenever you blink, if you melee at the same time, you'll be throwing out a melee hitbox throughout the entirety of the blink. This can give you so much free damage if you know you're going to be blinking anyway. So you kind of have to convince yourself whenever you blink to also press your melee button. So it's really important you just come into the firing range and just practice landing this, because this is really going to help you out. Also coming off of this is that you can cancel your pulse bomb animation by using this quick melee. So if you blink and melee and also press Q, you will make sure that your pulse bomb is so much faster than if you just pressed it regularly. Now, it's also really important to remember that you were able to get out your pulse bomb at 98% by using this. This is because at high percentages, when you use your quick melee, it will give you enough ult charge to use your ult. So as long as you hit Q during it, you'll be able to get your ult out as soon as possible. Just learning to use your pulse bomb out of a melee dash is extremely important, and being able to melee out of blinks is also really crucial too. You kind of want to always be using your melee blinks when you're playing, because it's so useful to be able to do additional damage by doing this. And being able to cancel this with pulse bombs is also going to win you so many more games. Now, the last thing I want to talk about in the firing range right now is why you see so many tracers using crouch. Now, when you see a lot of tracers playing, you'll see them approaching their opponent like this. And you may wonder why they're doing this, because you would think that you would just want to hold crouch the whole time if you want to be silent. But the problem is that because you're moving so slowly, it makes you so much easier to hit. So you kind of want to keep your speed whilst also remaining quiet and kind of unnoticed. So to do that, when you're coming in for flanks, just be sure to spam crouch during your walk animation instead of just holding it down or running regularly. This way you keep a good balance of silence as well as speed. So hopefully you found this video useful. If you did, please leave a like on this video. I really want to do more informative content like this. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.